Jack Morrison's lips met hers without permission, without explanation, stealing the champagne straight from Catherine Brennan's mouth before she could swallow. The ballroom exploded in gasps. Her hand flew up to slap him. This janitor, this nobody but he, collapsed at her feet, convulsing foam bubbling from his lips. She'd been about to drink poison, and he'd just taken it for her. What happened next would expose a conspiracy that had already killed her husband, and his wife would force a 52-year-old single father to become something he'd buried 15 years ago, and would prove that the most dangerous person in that room wasn't the one holding the poisoned glass. Drop a comment with your city below, so I can see how far this story travels. Jack Morrison had cleaned executive bathrooms for 3 years at Brennan Industries, and he'd learned one fundamental truth: rich people never see the help. They walked past him like he was furniture talked on phones about insider trades and affairs. While he emptied their trash, cried in conference rooms, after bad news while he mopped floors 10 feet away. Invisible. That's how he liked it. But tonight was different. Tonight, Catherine Brennan had insisted he work the charity gala, said she needed extra security after the catering company sent unfamiliar staff. He'd tried to refuse galas weren't part of his job description, but she'd looked at him with those sharp green eyes and said, "Jack, I trust you. That's worth more than credentials." So here he stood in the corner of the Plaza Ballroom, wearing the only suit he owned, watching 200 people in designer clothes pretend to care about childhood literacy. His daughter Emma had ironed his shirt that morning, told him he looked handsome, made him promise to tell her everything about how rich people partied. She was 12, and curious about everything. Catherine worked the room like she'd been born to it. At 54, she commanded attention without demanding it. Charcoal dress, silver haircut sharp at her shoulders. Handshake firm enough to remind everyone she'd built this company from her husband's life insurance payout after he died 5 years ago. Brain aneurysm, the doctors said. Sudden, tragic nothing anyone could have prevented. Jack knew better. He'd learned to spot lies in his old life before Emma, before janitorial work, before he'd buried who he used to be. But knowing and proving were different animals, and without proof, suspicion just made you paranoid. He scanned faces the way his Marine training had taught him, cataloging threats by instinct. Most guests were harmless board members, investors, society wives spending their husbands' money on good causes. But the servers bothered him. Specifically, one server. Gray suit, regulation black tie, carrying a tray of champagne glasses. Nothing obviously wrong, but everything slightly off. The way he moved through the crowd wasn't service industry, it was tactical. The way his eyes tracked Catherine wasn't hospitality, it was targeting. Jack's pulse kicked up. He started moving before his brain caught up, cutting across the ballroom floor. The server reached Catherine just as she finished a conversation with a state senator. He offered the tray with a practiced smile. "Champagne, Mrs. Brennan?" "Thank you." She took a glass, raised it toward her lips. Jack grabbed her wrist, hard. Catherine's eyes went wide. "Jack, what?" He didn't explain. No time. He pulled her close, one hand behind her head, and kissed her. Not gentle, not romantic. Desperate and clinical. He felt the champagne on her lips, tasted it on her tongue, drew it into his own mouth before she could swallow. The room went silent. Someone gasped. Catherine shoved him back, face flushed with shock and fury. "Have you lost your mind?" Jack tried to answer, but the poison was already working. Bitter metal taste, chemical burns spreading across his tongue. His throat started closing. He grabbed Catherine's arm again, this time to stay upright. "Your drink," he managed. "Poisoned." Then his legs gave out and he hit the floor. Catherine dropped to her knees beside him, training taking over. She'd been an ER nurse before marrying into money, before business school, before any of this. "Someone call 911. Now." But Jack caught her hand squeezed with what strength he had left. "No. Hospital later. Waiter. Gray suit. Where'd he go?" She looked up, scanned the crowd. The server had vanished. The tray of champagne glasses sat abandoned on a nearby table. "Don't let anyone touch those glasses," Jack gasped. His vision was blurring at the edges. Evidence. Catherine's head of security, Marcus Webb, pushed through the gathering crowd. 58, former NYPD, good at his job. But he'd been at the bar when this happened. He took one look at Jack convulsing on the marble floor and started barking orders. Lock down all exits. Nobody leaves. Someone get me the head of catering. The champagne, Catherine said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Jack says it was poisoned. We need to secure it. Marcus pulled out his phone, already dialing. On it. Mrs. Brennan, we need to get you somewhere safe. I'm not leaving him. She pressed her fingers to Jack's neck, counting his pulse. Too fast, too weak. He just saved my life. Jack tried to focus on her face, but the world kept tilting. His last clear thought before darkness swallowed him was that Emma would be so angry he broke his promise. He'd told her that morning he'd come home safe. He'd lied. Jack woke up to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. Hospital. His mouth tasted like battery acid, and his throat felt like he'd swallowed glass. An IV pulled at his left arm. Don't try to talk. Catherine's voice close by. The doctors said the poison damaged your throat. You need to rest. He turned his head. Everything hurt, and found her sitting in a chair beside his bed. Still in the charcoal dress, but she'd kicked off her heels and pulled her hair into a messy bun. She looked exhausted. How long? His voice came out as a rasp. 8 hours. They pumped your stomach, gave you activated charcoal. Something else I can't pronounce. The toxicology report came back an hour ago. Arsenic compound enough to kill you 3 times over. The doctor said if you'd swallowed even half of what was in that glass, you'd be dead. Jack processed this. I would have drunk the whole thing. Catherine's hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. I would have died right there in front of 200 people. And nobody would have known it was murder because arsenic mimics a heart attack if you use the right dose. She met his eyes, his. Who are you? Jack, janitors don't spot poison. They don't move like you moved. They don't make the calculation you made in 2 seconds. Fair question. Jack had known it would come eventually. He'd just hoped it would be under better circumstances. Marine Corps, he said. 15 years. Force recon. We learned to spot threats, read body language, make fast decisions. I got out after my wife died. Had a daughter to raise alone. Needed steady work, regular hours. Janitorial fit the bill. Truth, but not all of it. He left out the part about his wife's death not being an accident. Left out the 18 months he'd spent investigating before he ran out of leads and money. Left out taking this job specifically because Catherine's husband had called him 2 weeks before his aneurysm, said he needed someone he could trust, someone who'd see things others missed. Thomas Brennan had died before they could meet. Catherine studied him like she was reading a balance sheet. Thomas hired you, didn't he? Not the janitorial company. Too smart. Jack should have expected that. He called, said he'd found my name through a mutual friend, said he needed someone close to you who'd keep you safe. He died before he could explain why. And you didn't think to mention this when I took over the company. He specifically said not to. Said if anything happened to him, I should stay invisible, stay close to you and trust no one else. Jack's throat was burning, but he pushed through. I've been watching for 3 years, Catherine. Watching who gets too close, who asks too many questions, who benefits from your decisions. Tonight was the first time someone made a direct move. Catherine stood up, paced to the window. Outside, dawn was breaking over Manhattan, painting the sky orange and pink. Someone tried to kill me at my own charity gala, in front of witnesses. That's not opportunistic. That's desperate. Or confident, Jack said. Confident they could make it look natural. Confident they could disappear before anyone figured it out. That waiter was a professional. Marcus found the catering company. They confirmed they sent 18 servers, all accounted for. Nobody matching the description of your man in gray. So he wasn't catering. He was hired specifically to poison you. Catherine turned back to face him. Why, I've run this company for 5 years without major incidents. We're profitable, growing, no hostile takeovers in play. What threat am I? Maybe it's not about business. Jack shifted in the bed, trying to sit up. Pain shot through his chest. Maybe it's about what you know, or what someone thinks you might figure out. About Thomas. About how he really died. The words hung between them. Catherine's face went very still. The doctor said brain aneurysm. No warning, no symptoms. They did an autopsy. It was natural causes. Arsenic poisoning can cause cerebral hemorrhaging if administered in specific doses over time, Jack said. It's hard to detect unless you're specifically looking for it. And why would anyone look healthy 59-year-old man drops dead at his desk? Tragic, but not suspicious. Catherine's hand went to her throat. You think someone poisoned Thomas? Slowly, over weeks or months, until his brain ruptured. I think your husband called me because he discovered something. Something dangerous enough that he needed protection for you, even before he confronted whoever was behind it. And I think he died before he could tell me what that something was. Then why wait 5 years to come after me? Jack had wondered the same thing. Maybe they didn't need to. Maybe as long as you didn't find whatever Thomas found, you were safe. But something changed. Something made you a threat again. Catherine walked back to the bed, sat down heavily in the chair. 3 weeks ago, I started a routine audit. We do them every year, but this time I brought in an outside firm. I wanted a fresh perspective on our financial controls. Who knew about the audit? My CFO, Victor Hayes. He's been with the company since Thomas and I started it 30 years ago. My head of acquisitions, David Chen, and my executive assistant, Sarah Park. She rubbed her temples. All people I trust completely. Trust is a vulnerability, Jack said. Someone close enough to know about the audit is close enough to be scared of what it might find. Before Catherine could respond, the hospital room door opened. Marcus Webb stepped inside, followed by a woman Jack didn't recognize. Late 40s, dark suit FBI credentials clipped to her belt. Mrs. Brennan, this is Special Agent Lisa Reyes, Marcus said. She needs to ask some questions about last night. Agent Reyes nodded at Catherine, then turned her attention to Jack. Mr. Morrison? Impressive response time. Most people wouldn't have spotted a poisoning attempt in a crowded ballroom. Most people wouldn't have made the choice you made. She pulled out a notebook. Marcus tells me you're former Force Recon. That's good training, but it doesn't explain how you knew the champagne was poisoned before Mrs. Brennan drank it. The waiter was wrong, Jack said. Wrong posture, wrong movement pattern, wrong eye contact. He was focused on her, specifically tracking her through the crowd. In my experience, when someone pays that kind of attention, they're either in love or planning violence. He didn't look like he was in love. So you kissed her? Agent Reyes's expression gave nothing away. Bold choice. I didn't have time to knock the glass away. She would have been splashed, maybe gotten it on her skin. Arsenic absorbs through mucous membranes. I had to get it completely away from her. By taking it yourself. I'm a 52-year-old janitor with a decent life insurance policy. She's a CEO with 5,000 employees depending on her leadership. Math was simple. Catherine made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. You're an idiot. Been called worse. Agent Reyes made notes. Marcus gave me the security footage. Your gray-suited waiter used the service entrance, bypassed the sign-in, and disappeared through the kitchen 7 minutes after the incident. No cameras caught his face clearly. He knew the blind spots. Professional, Jack confirmed. Which means someone hired him, someone with resources and connections. Agent Reyes closed her notebook. Mrs. Brennan, I need complete transparency. Who wants you dead? Catherine's laugh was bitter. You're assuming I know, but if tonight proved anything, it's that I don't know nearly as much as I should. They kept Jack in the hospital for 48 hours, running tests, monitoring his organ function, making sure the poison hadn't done permanent damage. Emma visited every day after school, bringing his phone charger and crime novels from the library and updates about her soccer team. She didn't cry, didn't ask why he'd done something so dangerous. She just held his hand and told him the doctor said he'd be fine. You scared me, she admitted on the second night after visiting hours when she wasn't supposed to be there, but the nurses liked her enough to bend the rules. I thought I was going to lose you like Mom. Jack squeezed her hand. I'm not going anywhere, kiddo, I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. She was 12 but sounded 40. Mom promised she'd come home from her shift at the hospital. She promised we'd have pancakes the next morning. She promised. 5 years since the car accident, and Emma still flinched when ambulances passed, still checked the locks twice before bed, still needed the nightlight on. You're right, Jack said. I can't promise I'll never be in danger, but I can promise I'll always fight to come back to you. That's what I did tonight. I fought. Emma nodded, wiped her eyes. Mrs. Brennan came by this afternoon while you were sleeping. She wanted to know what you like to eat. Said she's sending dinner for a month when you get home. She doesn't need to do that. I told her you like meatloaf and mashed potatoes. She said her cook makes excellent meatloaf. Emma grinned. She also said you're getting a raise and a new title, Director of Security. Jack's stomach dropped. She said what? She said anyone smart enough to spot poison and brave enough to drink it for someone else is too valuable to waste on mopping floors. Emma's grin widened. She also said you kissed her in front of everyone. Was it gross? Extremely gross. She'd just had shrimp cocktail. Emma laughed and Jack felt some of the tension ease from his chest. His daughter was okay. That was what mattered. Everything else was just details. But the details were starting to pile up in ways Jack didn't like. Catherine picked him up from the hospital herself, driving a BMW sedan instead of sending a car. She was in jeans and a Yale sweatshirt, no makeup hair pulled back. She looked more like Emma's soccer mom than a CEO. Emma's at school, she asked as Jack eased into the passenger seat, every muscle still sore. Half day. I'll pick her up at noon. He buckled his seatbelt. You didn't have to do this. I could have taken a cab. A cab wouldn't give me a chance to talk to you privately. Catherine pulled into traffic, handling the car with practiced ease. The FBI searched the ballroom top to bottom. They found the champagne tray. All the glasses had traces of arsenic except the one you took. It was loaded with enough poison to kill me instantly. So it was targeted, not a random attack. The catering company confirmed they never ordered a champagne tower. Someone set that up separately, probably hours before the event. That waiter wasn't improvising. He had a plan, a timeline, and an escape route. Jack watched the city slide past the window. What did the audit find? Catherine's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The preliminary report came back yesterday. There are irregularities. Offshore accounts that don't match our records. Vendor payments for services never rendered. It's sophisticated layered through shell companies and subsidiaries. But it's there. How much? So far, 43 million over 7 years. Jack whistled low. That's motive for murder. That's motive for a lot of things. Catherine changed lanes smoothly. The auditors are digging deeper, but they estimate it could take months to trace everything. Whoever did this knew our systems inside and out. Victor Hayes, Jack said. Your CFO. He'd have the access and the knowledge. Victor's been my friend for 30 years. He was Thomas's college roommate. He introduced us. Catherine's voice was tight. When Thomas died, Victor helped me manage the transition. He taught me the financial side of the business. He was at Emma's birthday party last year. People kill for $43 million, Jack said gently. Even friends. I know. She pulled up outside Jack's apartment building in Queens, an old brick walk-up that had seen better decades. That's why I need your help. The FBI is investigating, but they're focused on the poisoning. I need someone focused on the embezzlement. Someone I can trust. Someone who thinks like Thomas did. Jack looked at her carefully. You offering me a job? I'm offering you answers. About Thomas, about your wife, about why someone wanted both of you dead. Catherine met his eyes. Marcus pulled Sarah Morrison's accident report. The other driver was never found. The truck had stolen plates, and the crash happened 2 weeks after Thomas made that first call to you. The world tilted sideways. You think they're connected? I think Thomas figured out someone was stealing from us. I think he reached out to you because he needed someone outside the company he could trust. And I think whoever was stealing found out and eliminated the threat. Catherine's voice was steady, but her eyes were fierce. Your wife was collateral damage. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm so sorry. But if we're going to find who did this, I need you all in. Not as my janitor. As my partner. Jack's mind was racing. 5 years of grief, of dead ends, of wondering if he was crazy to think Sarah's death was anything but a tragedy. And now Catherine was telling him it was murder. That his wife had died because she was married to him. That Thomas had died trying to protect them both. What do you need me to do? Catherine reached into the back seat, pulled out a leather bag. Thomas kept files, everything he was investigating before he died. I found them in his study last night, hidden behind a false panel in his bookshelf. Financial records, emails, meeting notes. He was building a case against someone, but he didn't write down who. I need you to help me figure it out. Jack took the bag. It was heavy with paper and secrets. Emma comes first. Whatever this is, however dangerous it gets, my daughter's safety is non-negotiable. Agreed. I've already arranged private security for her school. Former Secret Service vetted personally by Marcus. They'll be invisible, but they'll be there. Catherine handed him a phone. This is encrypted. Only you, me, and Marcus have the number. Don't use your personal phone for anything related to this investigation. You've thought this through. Someone tried to kill me, Jack. I'm done reacting. It's time to act. She drove away, and Jack stood on the sidewalk holding a bag full of his dead friend's last investigation. Above him, his apartment waited. Emma's soccer cleats by the door. Her homework scattered across the kitchen table, her laughter still echoing in the rooms, even when she wasn't home. He thought about Sarah, about the truck that ran her off the road, about the insurance settlement that let him quit his job and raise Emma full-time, about the years he'd spent trying to make peace with randomness and tragedy. It hadn't been random, it had been murder, and now he was going to prove it. Jack spread Thomas Brennan's files across his kitchen table after Emma went to bed. 3 years of financial records emails printed and highlighted in yellow handwritten notes in Thomas's cramped script. The man had been meticulous, tracking every discrepancy, every unusual transfer, every vendor that didn't quite add up. The first folder was labeled Offshore Accounts, 2018. Jack flipped it open and started reading. 2 hours later, his coffee had gone cold and his head was pounding. Thomas had traced money through 6 different shell companies, each one registered in a different country. The Caymans, Luxembourg, Singapore. The amounts were small at first, 20,000 here, 50,000 there, but they grew exponentially. By 2020, someone was moving $500,000 a month out of Brennan Industries and into accounts that led nowhere. Jack's encrypted phone buzzed, Catherine's name on the screen. "You still awake?" she asked when he answered. "Reading your husband's files. He was thorough. He was paranoid. I used to tease him about it." Her voice caught. Turns out he wasn't paranoid enough. Jack heard the clink of ice in a glass. "You drinking?" "Scotch, Thomas's favorite. I haven't touched the bottle since he died, but tonight seemed appropriate." She paused. "Find anything useful?" "Shell companies, lots of them. But he couldn't trace who controlled them. The ownership is buried under layers of legal entities and holding corporations. Whoever set this up knew exactly how to hide their tracks." "Victor would know how," Catherine said quietly. "He structured our international operations. He'd know every loophole, every jurisdiction where financial reporting is loose. But you don't want to believe it's him. I don't want to believe anyone I trust could do this. But wanting doesn't change facts." The ice clinked again. "There's something else. I went through Thomas's calendar from the weeks before he died. He had 3 meetings marked private with no names attached, all of them at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, nowhere near our usual spots. Jack grabbed a pen. Which coffee shop? The Daily Grind on 5th Avenue. I called them this afternoon, asked if they remembered Thomas. The owner said he came in regularly, that last month always met with the same person. A woman, late 40s professional. They talked for hours. Did he get a name? No, but he said Thomas looked worried, said the woman brought documents, spreadsheets. They argued, sometimes kept their voices low. Jack's mind was already working through possibilities. Thomas was meeting with someone who had information. Someone inside the company or close to it. Someone who knew about the embezzlement but was scared to come forward officially. That's what I thought too. So I pulled our employee records from that time period. Female employees in their 40s who'd have access to financial data. Catherine's voice hardened. There's only one who fits. Sarah Park, my executive assistant. Jack sat up straighter. The same Sarah Park who knew about the audit 3 weeks ago. The same. You need to talk to her, tomorrow. Don't give her time to prepare or run. I'm not going to ambush my assistant Jack. She's worked for me for 8 years. She's never given me reason not to trust her. Thomas trusted the person stealing from him too, Jack said. Right up until they killed him. Catherine was silent for a long moment. Okay, tomorrow morning first thing. I'll have Marcus there as backup. If Sarah was feeding Thomas information, I need to know why she stopped, and why she's still here. After they hung up, Jack sat staring at the files. Something was bothering him, an itch at the back of his brain he couldn't quite scratch. He pulled out Thomas's handwritten notes, the ones with dates and times, but no context. March 12, 2020. Confirmed VH approval required for all transactions over 100K, no exceptions. VH, Victor Hayes. March 19, 2020. SP showed me the backup files. Says she's kept copies of everything since 2018. Insurance, she called it. SP, Sarah Park. March 24, 2020. Confronted VH today. He denied everything, said I was seeing patterns that weren't there, but his hands were shaking. I know what guilt looks like. 2 days later, Thomas Brennan died at his desk. Jack grabbed his phone, called Catherine back. She answered on the first ring. Thomas confronted Victor, Jack said without preamble. March 24th, 2 days before he died. Sarah Park had given him backup files as evidence. Victor denied it, but Thomas knew he was lying. Catherine's breathing went sharp. If Victor killed Thomas and Sarah had evidence that could prove it, then Sarah's been sitting on proof of murder for 5 years. Either she's protecting herself, or someone's protecting her. Jack stood up, started pacing. We need to find those backup files. If Sarah still has them, they're our smoking gun. And if she doesn't, then we need to figure out why Victor let her live when he killed everyone else who got close to the truth. The next morning, Jack dropped Emma at school and watched until she was inside, flanked by 2 men in business suits who looked like they sold insurance but moved like operators. Emma had noticed them, given Jack a look that said they'd be talking about this later, but she hadn't argued. His daughter was smart enough to know when things were serious. He drove to Brennan Industries headquarters in Midtown, used the service entrance out of habit. Marcus Webb met him in the lobby, handed him a security badge. Director of Corporate Security, Marcus said, reading the title on the badge. Catherine doesn't waste time. She tell you what we're doing today. Interviewing Sarah Park, finding out what she knows. Marcus's expression was neutral, but his eyes were hard. I've worked with Sarah for 3 years. She's competent, loyal, doesn't gossip. If she's been hiding evidence of embezzlement and murder, she's a better actor than anyone I've ever met. Or she's terrified, Jack said. Scared people do strange things to survive. They took the elevator to the executive floor. Catherine was already in her office, dressed in a navy suit, hair pulled back, all business. Sarah Park sat across from her, looking confused and nervous. Sarah was 47, according to her employee file. Korean-American, divorced with 2 kids in college. She'd worked her way up from receptionist to executive assistant over 15 years. Her performance reviews were flawless. Her background check had been clean. Catherine gestured for Jack and Marcus to sit. "Sarah, you know Marcus. This is Jack Morrison, our new director of security. They're here because we need to ask you some questions about Thomas." Sarah's confusion deepened. "Mr. Brennan, he's been gone 5 years. Why?" "Because someone tried to poison me at the gala last week," Catherine said flatly. "And the FBI believes it's connected to embezzlement that's been happening since before Thomas died. Embezzlement he was investigating." The color drained from Sarah's face. "I don't know anything about embezzlement." "But you knew Thomas was investigating something," Jack said. "You met with him multiple times at the Daily Grind in Brooklyn, March 2020. You brought him documents, showed him backup files. You told him you'd been keeping copies since 2018 as insurance." Sarah's hands started shaking. She gripped the armrests of her chair. "How do you know about that?" "Thomas kept notes, very detailed notes." Jack leaned forward. "What I don't know is why you stopped helping him, or why you're still working here when everyone else who got close to this ended up dead." "I didn't stop." Sarah's voice cracked. "He stopped. He told me he was going to confront Victor, that he had enough evidence. I begged him to go to the police first to protect himself, but he said Victor was his friend. He wanted to give him a chance to confess to make it right. 2 days later, Thomas was dead." Catherine's hands clenched on her desk. "And you said nothing. For 5 years you said nothing." "Victor came to my house the night after Thomas died." Sarah was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "He sat at my kitchen table and told me he was sorry about Thomas, said heart attacks were tragic, unpredictable. And then he asked if Thomas had mentioned anything unusual to me before he died. Any concerns about the company, any investigations." "What did you tell him?" Marcus asked. "I lied. I said Thomas never discussed business with me, that I was just his wife's assistant." Sarah wiped her eyes. Victor smiled. "He said that was good, that it would be terrible if anyone got the wrong idea. Then he mentioned my son's name. David. Said David was doing well at Stanford, such an expensive school. Wouldn't it be awful if something happened to jeopardize his scholarship?" Jack felt cold anger settle in his gut. "He threatened your son." He didn't have to be explicit. The message was clear. Keep quiet, keep working, pretend everything's normal, or my kids would pay the price. Sarah looked at Catherine. "I'm sorry. I know I should have come forward, should have told you, but I was terrified. My kids are all I have." Catherine's face was stone. "Where are the backup files now?" "Hidden. Safe deposit box under my sister's name. Everything Thomas asked for, 7 years of transactions, emails between Victor and the shell company managers, transfer authorizations with Victor's signature, all of it." "We need those files," Jack said. "Today, now." Sarah nodded, pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "The bank opens at 9. I can get them." "No." Marcus stood up. "You're not going anywhere alone. If Victor's been watching you for 5 years, he'll notice you suddenly rushing to a bank. I'll go with you. We'll say it's personal business, family matter. Jack will follow at a distance as backup." Catherine was already on her phone. "I'm calling Agent Reyes. We do this with FBI oversight. No mistakes, no chances for evidence to disappear." 30 minutes later, Jack was in his car, 2 blocks behind Marcus's sedan, watching Sarah park in the passenger seat. She looked small, scared. He understood that. He'd spent 5 years scared too, wondering if the people who killed Sarah Morrison would come back for Emma. Now he knew they'd been watching him the whole time, making sure he stayed quiet, stayed harmless. That ended today. The bank was a Chase branch in downtown Brooklyn, old stone building with modern security. Jack parked across the street, kept his eyes on the entrance. Marcus walked in with Sarah, casual and unhurried. Agent Reyes was already inside, undercover as a customer. Jack's phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. In the vault. Sarah's getting the box now. Then another text, this one from an unknown number. You're making a mistake, Morrison. Walk away while you still can. Jack's blood went cold. He scanned the street looking for surveillance. A black SUV was parked 3 cars behind him, windows tinted. He hadn't noticed it follow them, but that didn't mean anything. Professionals were good at staying invisible. He texted back, "Who is this?" The response was immediate. "Someone who knows your daughter takes soccer practice at Miller Park every Tuesday. She's very good. It would be a shame if she got hurt." Jack was out of his car before conscious thought. He sprinted toward the bank entrance phone to his ear, calling Emma's school. It rang once, twice, 3 times. A woman's voice. "Hudson Middle School. How may I direct your call?" "This is Jack Morrison. Emma Morrison's father. I need to speak to Principal Chen immediately. It's an emergency." "One moment, please." The moment felt like hours. Jack burst through the bank doors, saw Marcus and Sarah at the counter with a metal box. Agent Reyes looked up, saw his face, immediately went for her weapon. Principal Chen came on the line. "Mr. Morrison, is everything all right? Is Emma in class right now? Can you verify she's safe?" "Hold on." Muffled voices, footsteps. Then, "I'm looking at her through the classroom window. She's fine working on a math problem. What's going on?" Jack's knees almost gave out with relief. "Keep her there. Don't let her leave campus for any reason. I'm sending security to escort her home. Tell them it's a code yellow situation." Code yellow meant elevated threat, possible danger, maximum precaution. Principal Chen had been briefed on the protocols when Jack enrolled Emma. She'd thought he was being paranoid. "Understood. I'll notify campus security." Jack hung up, showed Marcus and Agent Reyes the threatening text. Reyes immediately made a call, spoke in clipped law enforcement language. "Trace this number, priority 1, and get a protective detail to Hudson Middle School in Queens, now." Marcus grabbed the metal box from Sarah. "We're leaving. Out the back. Jack, you take Sarah in your car. Agent Reyes and I will create a diversion out front." They moved fast, no discussion. Marcus and Reyes walked out the main entrance casual and unhurried, carrying the box like it contained nothing important. Jack and Sarah went through the employee exit into an alley. The black SUV was waiting. 2 men got out, both wearing suits, both carrying. Not professionals trying to look like civilians. Professionals who didn't care anymore. "Mr. Morrison," the first one said. He was 40-something, bland face, the kind you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him. "We need you to hand over Ms. Park and the box. Do that and your daughter stays safe. Make this difficult and we make a phone call." Jack positioned himself between Sarah and the men. "You touch my daughter and there's nowhere you can hide. I was force recon. I know 50 ways to kill you before you hit the ground." The bland man smiled. "We know what you were, Morrison. We also know you've been out of the game for 15 years. You're soft now, domesticated, a father playing security guard. Try me." The second man reached for his weapon. Jack was faster. He closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard. The gun clattered to the pavement. Jack followed with an elbow to the face, felt cartilage crunch. The bland man pulled his gun, but Sarah was already screaming, drawing attention from the street. A patrol car happened to be passing, lights immediately flashing. "Another time, Morrison," the bland man said. He and his bleeding partner got back in the SUV, drove away before the cops could block them. Jack grabbed Sarah's arm. "Move. Now." They ran to his car, Sarah clutching her purse like it contained gold. Jack drove 6 blocks, checking mirrors constantly before pulling into a parking garage. His hands were shaking with adrenaline. Sarah was crying again. "They were going to kill us. Right there in the alley. They were going to kill us." But they didn't. Jack pulled out his phone, called Marcus. "We're clear. Heading to a safe location. 2 hostiles engaged. NYPD scared them off. You, same. SUV tried to follow us, but Reyes had backup waiting. We've got the box." Marcus's voice was tight. This is bigger than we thought, Jack. They've got resources, people watching us. This isn't just Victor covering up embezzlement. I know. Jack watched the entrance to the parking garage. Victor's got partners. Maybe even someone in law enforcement. Otherwise, they wouldn't be this bold. He hung up, looked at Sarah. Your kids. Where are they right now? David's at Stanford. Jessica's at NYU. They're in class. Call them. Tell them to go to campus security immediately. Don't leave the building until they hear from you. Don't get in any vehicles they don't recognize. Do it now. Sarah made the calls, her voice shaking but clear. Both kids sounded confused but agreed. Jack listened to her tell them she loved them, that everything would be okay, that they just needed to be careful for a little while. The same lies he'd told Emma that morning. His phone rang. Catherine. Marcus told me what happened. Are you both safe? For now. They threatened Emma Catherine. They knew her schedule, her school, her soccer practice. These people have been watching my daughter. I'm so sorry, Jack. I never meant... This isn't your fault. This is Victor, and whoever else is involved trying to scare us into backing down. Jack's jaw was tight. It won't work. But we need to move fast. The longer we wait, the more time they have to destroy evidence or disappear. Agent Reyes is opening the box now. I'm putting you on speaker. Jack heard rustling, the sound of metal scraping. Then Catherine's sharp intake of breath. Oh my God! What is it? Jack demanded. Financial records, like Sarah said. But there's more. Wire transfer receipts. Emails between Victor and someone named D. Chen discussing the succession plan. And photographs. Catherine's voice went hollow. Photographs of Thomas at his desk the day he died. Time-stamped an hour before he was found. Someone was watching him, documenting it. Agent Reyes spoke up. Mrs. Brennan, I need you to not touch anything else. This is evidence in a murder investigation now. I'm sending a team to secure it immediately. There's a note, Catherine said, ignoring the agent. Handwritten. It says, Thomas, I'm sorry it came to this. You left me no choice. The company is bigger than any one person, even you, V. Victor Hayes had confessed in writing, then kept the confession in the same box as the evidence of his crimes. Arrogance or insurance, Jack couldn't tell. There's something else, Agent Reyes said. These emails mention a D. Chen. That's not David Chen, your head of acquisitions. The email address is different. This is someone outside the company. Jack felt pieces clicking together. Sarah, do you know anyone named D. Chen connected to Victor or the company? Sarah shook her head. No, Victor never mentioned anyone by that name. What about Thomas? Did he ever mention that name in your meetings? Sarah thought hard. No, just Victor. He was convinced Victor was working alone. But he wasn't, Jack said. The emails prove it. Victor had a partner. Someone helping him move the money, maybe providing cover. We need to figure out who D. Chen is. Catherine's voice came through the phone. I'll have our IT department search company emails for any correspondence with that address. Maybe we can trace it. Don't use company IT, Jack said immediately. If D. Chen has access to your systems, they'll know you're looking. Use an outside forensic team. Someone with no connection to Brennan Industries. Paranoid much? But Catherine was already making notes. Okay, I'll contact the FBI's cyber division. Agent Reyes, can your people handle that? Already on it, Reyes confirmed. Mr. Morrison, bring Ms. Park to Federal Plaza. We'll take her statement and get her into protective custody until we sort this out. Her children, too. I'm arranging for agents to escort them from their schools. Sarah grabbed Jack's hand. Thank you. For keeping my kids safe. For believing me. Thank you for being brave enough to keep those files, Jack said. Without them, we'd have nothing. They drove to Federal Plaza in silence. Jack kept checking mirrors, looking for tails, but saw nothing. Either they'd lost their surveillance, or the people watching had decided to lay low. At the FBI building, Agent Reyes met them personally, ushered Sarah into a secure interview room. Jack waited in the hallway drinking terrible coffee, watching agents move with purpose through the corridors. His phone buzzed. Text from Emma's security detail. Package secure. No incidents. Subject requesting to speak with father. Jack called immediately. The security agent answered, then passed the phone to Emma. Dad, what's going on? Why do I have bodyguards following me around like I'm the president? Just a precaution, sweetheart. Some people are upset about the work I'm doing making threats. It's probably nothing, but I'm not taking chances with you. Is this about Mrs. Brennan? About you kissing her at the gala? Emma's voice was sharp. Too smart, his daughter. Too perceptive. It's about keeping you safe. That's all you need to know right now. Dad, I'm 12, not 6. I know something serious is happening. Mom died in a car accident that you never believed was an accident. Now you're working for the woman whose husband died mysteriously, and people are threatening you. I'm not stupid. Jack closed his eyes. He'd tried so hard to shield her from the darkness, from the questions that had no good answers. But Emma was right. She deserved the truth. You're not stupid. You're brilliant and brave, and I'm sorry I treated you like you couldn't handle this. He took a breath. The truth is, I think Mom's accident was connected to Mrs. Brennan's husband's death. I think someone killed them both to hide crimes they were committing, and now that person knows I'm investigating. So yes, it's dangerous, and yes, you need protection. But I promise you, Emma, I'm going to find who did this. I'm going to make sure they pay for what they took from us. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Okay. But Dad, don't do anything stupid. Don't be a hero if it means I lose you too. I need you more than I need revenge. I'll be careful. I love you. Love you too. Jack hung up, feeling like his chest was cracked open. Emma had already lost her mother. He couldn't let her lose him too. But he also couldn't let the people who killed Sarah Morrison walk free. Agent Reyes emerged from the interview room 3 hours later, looking grim. Sarah's statement matches the documents. Victor Hayes embezzled $43 million over 7 years, killed Thomas Brennan to cover it up, and has been threatening Sarah to keep her quiet. We have enough for arrests. What about Dee Chen? Jack asked. Still working on it. The email address is registered through a VPN in Singapore, bouncing through servers in 12 countries. Whoever set it up knew how to hide their tracks. But we'll find them. How long? Could be days, could be weeks. Depends on how careful they were. Jack shook his head. We don't have weeks. Victor knows we have the files by now. He'll run or destroy evidence or make another move against Catherine. We need to pressure him now, force a mistake. What did you have in mind? Reyes asked. Catherine confronts him. Tonight, in his office. Tells him she knows everything, gives him a chance to confess, to turn on his partner. We wire her record, the whole thing, get him on tape admitting to Thomas's murder. That's insane, Reyes said. Victor's already killed once. You want to put Mrs. Brennan in a room with him alone? Not alone. I'll be there. Hidden, armed, ready to intervene if things go wrong. And you'll have agents positioned throughout the building ready to move in on my signal. Reyes studied him. You're willing to bet Catherine Brennan's life on this plan? I'm willing to bet my life that she can pull it off. Catherine's tougher than she looks. And Victor won't expect her to come at him directly. He thinks he's won, thinks Sarah's too scared to talk, thinks the evidence is hidden forever. We use his arrogance against him. Agent Reyes looked at Jack for a long moment, then nodded. I'll need to clear this with my supervisor, but if Catherine agrees, we'll do it. Tonight. Jack called Catherine, explained the plan. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said Victor was Thomas's best friend. He stood up at our wedding. He held our daughter when she was born. Her voice was ice. If he killed Thomas, I want to hear him say it to my face. Set it up. I'll be ready. Catherine stood in front of her office mirror at 7 that evening, adjusting the wire taped between her shoulder blades. The adhesive pulled at her skin, a constant reminder of what she was about to do. Agent Reyes had spent 20 minutes getting it positioned correctly, testing the audio quality, making sure nothing showed through Catherine's silk blouse. "How do I look?" Catherine asked. Jack studied her from across the room. "Like a CEO about to fire someone." "That's perfect. Victor needs to think this is business as usual until you have him talking. And if he pulls a gun like he did with Thomas, then I put 2 rounds in his chest before he can blink." Jack checked his weapon for the 3rd time. "I'll be in the storage closet behind your bookshelf, 8 feet away. If anything feels wrong, you say the phrase, 'I need some air,' and I come through that door. Understood?" Catherine nodded. Her hands were steady, but Jack could see the pulse jumping in her throat. Fear or adrenaline or both. "I've known Victor for 30 years, she said quietly. "I trusted him with my company, my finances, my life. How did I miss that he was capable of murder?" "Because you're not a murderer," Jack said. "You can't think like they do. That's not a weakness, Catherine. That's what makes you human." She met his eyes in the mirror. Thomas saw it. He figured it out. And it got him killed. Thomas didn't have backup. You do. Jack moved closer. "You're not alone in this. Remember that." Agent Reyes knocked once, then entered. Victor's car just pulled into the garage. He's on his way up. Everyone in position. FBI tactical team has the building surrounded, but they'll stay out of sight unless things go south. Jack, you need to hide now. Jack slipped into the storage closet, left the door cracked an inch. From this angle, he could see Catherine's desk, the chairs where she and Victor would sit most of the office. Good sight lines. He controlled his breathing, settled into the familiar calm of waiting for action. Catherine sat at her desk, pulled up financial reports on her computer like she'd been working late. The office door opened. Victor Hayes walked in carrying his briefcase, looking tired but composed. 60-years-old silver hair, reading glasses perched on his head. He looked like someone's grandfather, not a killer. "Catherine, I saw your light on. Burning the midnight oil." "Just reviewing the quarterly numbers. Victor, do you have a minute? There's something I need to discuss." Victor set his briefcase down, sat across from her. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Catherine folded her hands on her desk. "I've been going through Thomas's old files, the ones from before he died. I found some irregularities in our offshore accounts." Victor's expression didn't change, but Jack saw his shoulders tighten. "What kind of irregularities?" "Transfers to shell companies. Vendor payments for services never rendered. About $43 million over 7 years. Catherine's voice was steady, professional. "The forensic audit confirmed it this morning. Someone's been embezzling from us, Victor. Someone with high-level access to our financial systems." Victor was quiet for a moment. "That's a serious accusation. Have you contacted the authorities?" "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. You've been our CFO for 30 years. If there's fraud in our financial operations, you'd be the one to notice it." She paused. "Unless you're the one who's been doing it." Victor laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Catherine, you can't possibly think I'd steal from this company. Thomas and I built Brennan Industries from nothing. It's as much mine as it was his." "That's what bothers me. Thomas thought the same thing. He trusted you completely, right up until March 24, 2020, when he confronted you about the embezzlement. 2 days later, he was dead." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Victor's smile faded. "You're suggesting I killed Thomas? That's insane." "Is it? Because I have evidence that says otherwise. Financial records showing your signature on fraudulent transfers. Emails between you and your partner discussing the succession plan. And a note, Victor. A handwritten note where you apologized to Thomas for what you were about to do." Catherine leaned forward. "I know everything. Sarah Park kept copies. She gave them to the FBI this morning." Victor's face went pale, then red. He stood up abruptly. "Sarah Park is a liar. Whatever she told you is fabricated. She's been skimming money for years, probably trying to frame me now that she's been caught. Sarah showed me bank records, Victor. Wire transfers, your signatures. She showed me the photograph someone took of Thomas the day he died, time-stamped, documented. You were there. I wasn't. Victor stopped himself. I visited Thomas that morning. We had coffee. He was alive when I left. You poisoned his coffee. Slow-acting arsenic compound that caused a cerebral hemorrhage 6 hours later. Made it look like a natural aneurysm. Very clever. Catherine's voice was cold. But not clever enough. The FBI's exhuming Thomas's body. They'll find the arsenic. They'll match it to the compound used to poison me at the gala, and then you'll spend the rest of your life in prison for murder. Victor walked to the window, stood with his back to Catherine. Jack's hand tightened on his weapon. This was the dangerous moment when cornered animals either surrendered or attacked. You don't understand, Victor said finally. Thomas was going to destroy everything we built. He was going to expose the offshore accounts, bring in regulators, tear apart our international operations. The company would have been ruined. Stock price would have crashed. Thousands of employees would have lost their jobs. So you killed him to protect the company, or to protect yourself? Victor turned around. His eyes were wet. Both. I started moving money offshore to avoid taxes, just small amounts at first. But it grew, and then I couldn't stop without exposing what I'd done. Thomas found out. He said he was going to the SEC, to the DOJ. He didn't care that it would destroy us both. He cared that you were stealing, that you were breaking the law. Laws are for people who can't afford lawyers. Victor's voice hardened. Thomas was naive. He thought justice mattered more than loyalty. But I gave him a choice. I told him to walk away, to let it go. He refused, so I did what I had to do. Catherine stood slowly. You murdered your best friend because he wouldn't help you cover up your crimes. And then you tried to kill me when I started asking questions. How many people have to die before you're satisfied, Victor? As many as it takes. Victor reached into his jacket. Jack was already moving. He burst through the closet door, weapon raised. Hands where I can see them. Now. Victor froze, hand inside his jacket. For a heartbeat, Jack thought he'd pull the gun anyway, force Jack to shoot him. But then Victor's hand came out slowly, empty. On the ground, Jack ordered. Face down, hands behind your head. Victor complied, moving like an old man. He looked at Catherine as he knelt. I loved Thomas like a brother, but he chose principle over friendship, over everything we built together. What was I supposed to do? Not kill him, Catherine said. Her voice broke. You were supposed to not kill him, Victor. Agent Reyes and her team stormed in 30 seconds later, weapons drawn. They cuffed Victor, read him his rights, hauled him to his feet. He looked smaller, somehow, diminished. As they led him to the door, Victor stopped, looked back at Catherine. Your husband died because he was too honest for this world. Don't make the same mistake. The company needs pragmatists, not saints. Get him out of here, Catherine said. After they left, she sat down heavily in her chair. Jack holstered his weapon, gave her space. She'd just watched her husband's best friend confess to murder. She needed a moment. I keep thinking about Thomas's funeral, Catherine said quietly. Victor gave the eulogy. He cried. He told stories about their college days, about starting the company, about Thomas being the best man he'd ever known. And the whole time he'd already killed him. How do you do that? How do you stand up and lie to hundreds of people about a man you murdered? Practice, Jack said. Sociopaths are good at pretending. It's the only way they survive in society. Was he always like this, or did the money change him? Does it matter? Catherine thought about that. No, I suppose it doesn't. Thomas is still dead either way. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. Agent Reyes. She wants us to come to Federal Plaza. Says they've identified D. Chen. Jack's pulse quickened. That was fast. Too fast. Which means it's someone obvious. Someone we should have seen all along. They took Catherine's car, drove through Manhattan traffic in silence. Jack kept checking mirrors, old habits dying hard. But no one followed them. The immediate threat was in custody, confessing to federal agents, probably negotiating for a plea deal. But Di Chen was still out there. Victor's partner, the person who'd helped move $43 million, who'd helped plan Thomas's murder. Until they had Di Chen in custody, this wasn't over. Federal Plaza was buzzing with activity when they arrived. Agent Reyes met them in the lobby, led them to a conference room where a dozen agents were working computers and phones. The energy was intense, focused. "We traced the email address through Singapore, Hong Kong, and finally to a server in New Jersey," Reyes explained. "It's registered to a consulting firm called Pacific Rim Solutions, Delaware Corporation, established in 2018, and the CEO is listed as Diana Chen." The name hit Jack like a fist. Diana Chen. Not D. Chen, the way Thomas had written it, but Diana. A woman. Catherine's face had gone white. Diana Chen, Thomas's daughter from his first marriage. My stepdaughter. The room went silent. Jack's mind was racing, rewriting everything he thought he knew. Diana Chen, Thomas's daughter, Catherine's stepdaughter. "How old is Diana?" Jack asked. 46. She lives in Boston, works in finance. We've never been close. Thomas divorced her mother when Diana was 12, married me a year later. Diana blamed me for breaking up her parents' marriage. Catherine's hands were shaking. She came to the funeral, cried, hugged me, told me she was sorry for all the years we'd lost, that she wanted to rebuild our relationship. "Where is she now?" Reyes asked. "I don't know. We email occasionally, but we're not in regular contact. She sent a card after the poisoning attempt, said she was glad I was safe." Agent Reyes was already on her phone, talking fast. She hung up, looked at Catherine. "Diana Chen withdrew $500,000 from her bank account yesterday. Cash. Her neighbors say she left her apartment with suitcases. Her office says she took a leave of absence for personal reasons." "She's running," Jack said. "Victor's arrest spooked her. She knows we'll connect her to the embezzlement." Catherine sat down hard. Diana helped Victor steal from her father's company. Why Thomas left her a trust fund worth millions. She didn't need money. "It wasn't about money," Jack said quietly. "It was about revenge. You said she blamed you for her parents' divorce. Maybe she blamed Thomas too. Maybe this was her way of punishing both of you. By helping Victor kill her own father. By destroying everything Thomas built. The company, his marriage to you, his reputation. And making millions while doing it." Jack looked at Reyes. "We need to find her before she disappears completely. If she's been planning this since 2018, she'll have escape routes set up." Reyes nodded. "We've alerted TSA Customs State Police. Her photo's going to every airport and border crossing in the country. We'll find her." But Jack wasn't so sure. Diana Chen had been smart enough to hide her involvement for 7 years. Smart enough to help Victor execute a perfect murder. Smart enough to nearly kill Catherine and frame it as random violence. A woman that intelligent wouldn't run without a solid plan. Catherine's phone rang. She looked at the screen, went pale. "It's Diana." "Answer it," Reyes said. "Put it on speaker. Keep her talking." Catherine accepted the call, hands trembling. "Diana." "Catherine, I heard about Victor's arrest. Such a tragedy. He was always so devoted to the company." Diana's voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I assume you've figured out my involvement by now." "The FBI certainly has. They're very efficient." "Why, Diana? Why help Victor steal from your father?" Diana laughed, light and bitter. "Steal from my father, Catherine? I was taking what should have been mine all along. When my father divorced my mother, he gave her a pittance in the settlement. When he married you, he updated his will, left control of the company to you instead of me. His own daughter and I got a trust fund while you got an empire. Thomas loved you. He talked about you, constantly wanted to rebuild your relationship." Thomas loved his image of me. The daughter who'd forgive him, who'd understand that he fell in love with his secretary and destroyed our family for it. But I never forgave him, Catherine. And I never will. Catherine's voice cracked. So you killed him? Your own father? Victor killed him. I just provided the means and the motive. I showed Victor how to move the money, how to hide it, how to make it disappear. And when Thomas got too close, I told Victor exactly how much arsenic to use, exactly where to inject it into the coffee creamer. Chemistry degree from MIT. Very useful. Jack leaned closer to the phone. This is Jack Morrison. Where are you, Diana? The janitor who saved Catherine's life. How noble. Tell me, Jack, did you enjoy kissing my stepmother? I watched the video. Very dramatic. You hired the man who poisoned her champagne. I did. Professional from Detroit. Very expensive. Completely disposable. He was supposed to disappear after Catherine died, but you complicated things. No matter. There are always more professionals. Reyes was frantically signaling her tech team, trying to trace the call. But Diana had been planning this for years. She'd know to use burner phones, VPNs, all the tricks. The FBI has your photo, Catherine said. Every airport, every border crossing. You can't run forever. I'm not running, Catherine. I'm already gone. I left the country last night 12 hours before Victor's arrest. Private plane to Mexico, then a boat to the Caribbean. I'm sitting on a beach in a country with no extradition treaty drinking champagne that's definitely not poisoned. We'll find you, Jack said. Maybe. But it'll take years, and by then I'll have moved again. I have $43 million, multiple passports, and no intention of ever setting foot in the United States again. Diana's voice went cold. But before I go, I want you to know something, Catherine. Thomas died thinking you'd be safe, that Victor would protect the company, that his death meant something. But it didn't. It was just revenge. Petty, simple revenge for choosing you over my mother, for building a life with you that should have been ours. Diana, please. Enjoy the company, Catherine. Enjoy everything my father left you. But know that every dollar you spend, every decision you make, it's all built on his corpse. On the man I helped murder, because he loved you more than he loved me. The line went dead. Catherine sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Tears streamed down her face. She killed him because he loved me, because he chose me. She killed him because she's sick, Jack said. Because she couldn't let go of a 30-year-old grudge. That's not your fault. Agent Reyes hung up. Her phone shook her head. Call bounced through 6 countries. By the time we traced it, the phone was already destroyed. She's good. She's been planning this for 7 years, Jack said. She had time to get very good. Catherine wiped her eyes, stood up. We need to freeze her accounts, seize any assets still in the country. Make it harder for her to stay hidden. Already on it, Reyes said. But she's probably moved most of the money offshore by now. Swiss accounts, Cayman Islands, places that don't cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. Then we find someone who knows where she is. Someone she trusted. Jack turned to Catherine. Does Diana have family friends? Anyone she'd stay in contact with? Catherine thought hard. Her mother died 10 years ago. No siblings. She dated a few people over the years, but nothing serious. Thomas said she was married to her career. What about business associates, people at Pacific Rim Solutions? I can pull the corporate filings, see who else is listed. Catherine was already on her phone accessing databases. Here, Diana Chen, CEO, and one other officer. Vice President of Operations, Sarah Morrison. Jack's world tilted sideways. What did you say? Sarah Morrison, listed as VP of Operations for Pacific Rim Solutions since 2019. Catherine looked up, saw Jack's face. What's wrong? Sarah Morrison was my wife's name. The conference room went silent. Agent Reyes moved closer. Your wife, who died in a car accident 5 years ago. 4 months after Pacific Rim Solutions was incorporated. Jack's hands were clenched so tight his knuckles went white. Diana Chen didn't just help Victor kill Thomas. She killed my wife. Catherine grabbed his arm. Jack, are you sure Sarah Morrison is a common name? Show me her photo, the one from the corporate filing. Catherine pulled it up on her phone. A professional headshot woman in her early 40s, blonde hair, blue eyes, smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jack stared at the photo of his dead wife and felt everything he thought he knew shatter and reform into something darker. That's not Sarah, he said. My wife had brown hair, brown eyes. This is someone else using her name. Reyes was already typing. If Diana used a false identity for her VP, there'll be records. Social security number, address, background check. She pulled up the filing. SSN belongs to Sarah Catherine Morrison, born 1978, died 2020. Car accident in Queens. Jack's Sarah. His wife's full name, her birth year, her death year. Diana had stolen his wife's identity to hide her involvement in the company. Why? Catherine asked. Why use your wife's name specifically? Because she knew I was investigating Thomas's death. She knew I'd taken the janitor job to stay close to you. She was watching me, tracking me, and she used my wife's name as a message. Jack's voice was hollow. She's been laughing at me for 5 years. Every time she filed paperwork under Sarah's name, every time she signed documents, she was reminding me that she'd killed my wife and gotten away with it. Agent Reyes's phone rang. She answered, listened, went pale. When, are you sure? She hung up, looked at Jack and Catherine. That was Mexico City police. They found a woman's body in a hotel room 2 hours ago. American passport ID'd as Diana Chen. Single gunshot wound to the head. Apparent suicide. Catherine sat down hard. No, she wouldn't. She was too proud, too confident. The hotel staff said she checked in alone yesterday, didn't leave the room. Her laptop was open, files deleted, hard drive destroyed. But they found a note. Reyes read from her phone. It says, tell Catherine she won. Tell Jack Morrison I'm sorry about his wife. That wasn't supposed to happen. Tell them both that revenge tastes like ashes. That's it. No signature. Jack didn't believe it. Diana Chen had escaped the country. Had millions of dollars, had been too careful, too smart, too calculating to suddenly crack and kill herself. I want to see the body, Jack said. I want photos, forensics, everything. I don't believe she's dead. Jack, the Mexican authorities confirmed. I don't care what they confirmed. Diana faked a VP's identity using my dead wife's name. She helped commit murder and embezzlement for 7 years. She's not going to conveniently kill herself the day after she escapes. Jack stood up. This is a decoy. She hired someone who looks like her, had them check into the hotel, staged a suicide. While we're investigating the body, she's disappearing for real. Catherine nodded slowly. He's right. Diana's too narcissistic to kill herself. She'd want to live, to enjoy her victory, to know she got away with it. Reyes made calls. Lots of them. An hour later, she had answers. Mexican forensics says the fingerprints don't match Diana Chen's records. Dental records are different too. The woman in the hotel room is someone else. Reyes looked at Jack with something like respect. You were right, it's a decoy. So Diana's still out there, Catherine said, with $43 million and no conscience. We'll find her, Reyes said. It might take time, but we'll find her. Jack wasn't so sure. Diana had been planning this for years, had anticipated every move, every investigation. She was always 3 steps ahead. But she'd made one mistake. She'd used Sarah's name. She'd made it personal. And Jack Morrison was very good at personal. Catherine drove him home just before midnight. They were both exhausted, emotionally wrung out. Emma was waiting up anxious despite the security detail. Dad, the news is saying someone tried to kill Mrs. Brennan again, that a CFO was arrested for murder. It's over now, sweetheart. The bad guys are in custody. Emma looked at him with those 2 wise 12-year-old eyes. You're lying. I can tell when you're lying. Jack sighed, sat down beside her. You're right. It's not completely over. There's still one person we're looking for, but the immediate danger is past. The people who threatened you are in jail. What about Mom? Does this have to do with Mom's accident? Jack had promised himself he'd never lie to Emma about Sarah. Yes, I think the people we're investigating might have been involved in what happened to your mother. I don't have proof yet, but I'm working on it. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she hugged him fierce and tight. Find them, Dad. Find who hurt Mom. But don't get killed doing it, please. I won't, I promise. After Emma went to bed, Jack sat in his kitchen with Thomas Brennan's files spread across the table again. Somewhere in these documents was a clue to where Diana had gone, how she'd planned her escape, what her next move would be. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You're getting close, Jack Morrison, but not close enough. Your wife's last words were, "Tell Jack I love him." I thought you'd want to know. D. Jack's vision went red. Diana had been there when Sarah died, had watched her die, had heard her final words and kept them secret for 5 years. He texted back, "I'll find you, wherever you run, however long it takes. I'll find you." The response was immediate. I'm counting on it. Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat at his kitchen table staring at Diana's text message until the words blurred together. Sarah's last words. Tell Jack I love him. Diana had been there, had watched his wife die, had carried those words for 5 years like a trophy. At 4 in the morning, his phone rang. Catherine. I can't stop thinking about what Diana said, about Thomas dying thinking I'd be safe. Her voice was raw. Jack, I need to know everything. Every detail about how Thomas died, how your wife died. I need to understand what we're really dealing with. Meet me at the office in an hour. Bring everything you have on Diana. School records, family photos, anything that might tell us who she really is. Catherine was already in her office when Jack arrived, files spread across her desk. She looked like she hadn't slept either. 3 cups of coffee sat empty beside her computer. I've been going through Diana's life, Catherine said, trying to find the moment she became capable of this. And Jack, I think I found it. She turned her laptop around. A newspaper article from 1995, local Boston paper. The headline read, MIT student survives brutal attack. Jack read quickly. Diana Chen, 21 years old, had been assaulted near campus. 2 men never caught. She'd been hospitalized for 3 weeks. The article mentioned severe injuries, trauma along recovery. Thomas never told me the details, Catherine said. Just that Diana had gone through something terrible in college, that it changed her. He blamed himself for not being there, for being too focused on building the company to notice his daughter was suffering. When was this attack? 6 months after Thomas and I got married. Diana had just started her sophomore year. Catherine's voice was tight. Thomas tried to bring her home, wanted her to take time off. She refused. Finished her degree in 3 years, graduated top of her class. Threw herself into work like she was running from something. Jack studied Diana's photo from that time. Young, smiling before the attack. Then a photo from her graduation. Same person, but the eyes were different. Harder. Hollow. Trauma can break people, Jack said. Or it can forge them into something else. Something that doesn't feel pain the normal way. You think the attack made her capable of murder? I think it gave her a reason to stop caring about consequences. She'd already survived the worst thing that could happen to her. Everything after that was just noise. Jack pulled out his phone, forwarded the article to Agent Reyes with a note. We need to find those men, the ones who attacked her. I'm betting they're connected to this somehow. Catherine shook her head. How could they be? That was 30 years ago. Different city, different life. Diana used my wife's identity for her shell company. She doesn't do anything without purpose. If she kept those men's names in her head for 30 years, there's a reason. His phone rang. Agent Reyes. Morrison, I got your email. I'm already pulling case files on Diana's assault. But there's something else you need to know. Victor Hayes started talking. He wants a plea deal. Jack put her on speaker. What's he offering? Everything. Names, dates, bank accounts. He says Diana approached him in 2018, said she knew he'd been skimming money from the company for years. She had proof, said she'd go to Thomas unless Victor worked with her. So they became partners. What did Diana get out of it? Catherine asked. Revenge and profit. Victor handled the embezzlement, Diana provided the infrastructure to hide it. But Victor says Diana was always in control. She planned Thomas's murder, hired the people to execute it, even picked the poison. Victor just did what he was told. Jack's jaw tightened. He's trying to minimize his involvement, make Diana the villain so he can get a lighter sentence. Maybe. But he gave us something useful. Diana kept records, everything. She documented every crime, every transaction, every conversation. Victor says she told him it was insurance, that if he ever betrayed her, she'd make sure he went down for everything. Where are the records? Catherine demanded. Victor doesn't know, but he says Diana mentioned a storage unit in Brooklyn, under a false name. He thinks she kept physical copies of everything there. Jack was already standing. Get me the address. Jack, this is FBI jurisdiction. We handle the search. Then handle it, but I'm coming with you. Agent Reyes sighed. Fine. But you follow my lead. You don't touch anything. And if Diana shows up, you let my people handle her. Understood. Understood. The storage facility was in Red Hook Industrial Neighborhood by the water. Old brick buildings converted to climate-controlled units. Agent Reyes brought a tactical team, 6 agents in body armor. Jack stayed back like he'd promised, but his hand was on his weapon. The unit was registered to Sarah Morrison. Diana's final insult, hiding evidence under his dead wife's name. Reyes cut the lock, rolled up the door. Inside was a small office setup. Desk filing cabinets, computer equipment. Everything organized, labeled pristine. She really did document everything, Reyes murmured. She pulled open the first filing cabinet. Folders organized by year. Bank statements, wire transfers, emails. 7 years of crime neatly categorized. Jack moved to the desk. A laptop sat closed, power cord plugged in. He opened it. Password protected, but the hint was visible. Father's biggest regret. Catherine was beside him. Thomas's biggest regret was not protecting Diana after her attack. He said it constantly that he should have been there. Jack typed Diana's attack. The computer unlocked. The desktop was clean except for one folder labeled Truth. Jack opened it. Inside were dozens of files. Photos, documents, audio recordings. The first photo made his stomach drop. Sarah Morrison, his wife, sitting in a coffee shop with a man Jack didn't recognize. The date stamp was 2 weeks before she died. What is this? Catherine asked. Jack opened the next photo. Sarah and the same man, different location. Then another, and another. Weeks of surveillance photos, his wife meeting with someone, talking intensely, exchanging papers. Diana was following your wife, Reyes said quietly, documenting her movements. Jack opened an audio file. Sarah's voice, immediately recognizable, made his chest tight. I know what you're doing, Sarah said on the recording. I know about the embezzlement, about Thomas Brennan, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. A man's voice responded. Mrs. Morrison, you don't understand what you're involved in. These are dangerous people. You need to walk away. I can't. Jack's risking his life to protect Catherine Brennan. I'm not going to stand by while someone murders her husband and steals from her company. I'm going to the police. The recording ended. Jack stood frozen, understanding crashing over him. Sarah had known. She'd figured out the embezzlement probably by overhearing Jack's phone calls with Thomas, by reading his notes. And she'd tried to stop it herself. Diana killed her, Jack said. His voice sounded strange, distant. Sarah was going to expose everything, so Diana had her killed. Catherine's hand was on his shoulder. Jack, I'm so sorry. She died because of my family's mess. Because Thomas trusted the wrong person. She died trying to do the right thing. Jack's grief was hardening into something cold and focused. Just like Thomas. Diana punishes people for being good. Reyes was going through more files. There's something else here. Bank records showing Diana's current accounts. Locations where she's moved money in the last week. And travel itinerary. She's not in the Caribbean, she's in Canada. Jack grabbed the papers. Toronto. Diana had flown to Mexico City, staged the suicide, then caught a private plane to Canada. She was in a safe house she'd prepared years ago, waiting for the heat to die down. She's 3 hours away, Jack said. We can get her. We need to coordinate with Canadian authorities, Reyes said. Extradition paperwork warrants. This has to be done legally. How long will that take? Days, maybe a week. Jack looked at the files, at the photos of his dead wife, at the evidence of Diana's crimes spread across 7 years. A week was too long. Diana would know they'd found the storage unit. She'd run again, disappear into another identity, another country. I'll wait, Jack said. But he was lying. That night, Jack told Emma he had to go out of town for work. Security would stay with her. Catherine would check in daily. Emma looked at him with those two knowing eyes and made him promise he'd come back. I always come back, Jack said. He crossed into Canada at Niagara Falls just after midnight, using a fake passport he'd kept from his old life. The border guard barely glanced at it. Jack Morrison was invisible again, just another middle-aged man on a business trip. The address from Diana's files was a house in Toronto's suburbs. Nice neighborhood, quiet streets, the kind of place where people kept to themselves. Jack parked 2 blocks away, approached on foot. The house was dark, except for one window on the 2nd floor. He circled the property, checking sightlines, looking for security. Diana was smart, but she was also arrogant. She thought she'd covered her tracks, thought the staged suicide had bought her time. Jack picked the back door lock in under a minute. Inside the house was sparsely furnished. Rental, probably. Diana wouldn't own property that could be traced. He moved through the 1st floor, silently cleared each room. Upstairs, he heard water running. Shower. He waited in the hallway, weapon drawn. The bathroom door opened. Diana Chen stepped out in a robe, toweling her hair. She saw Jack and froze. Hello, Diana. She recovered quickly, smiled like they were old friends. Jack Morrison, I wondered if you'd figure it out. You're more resourceful than I expected. Sarah's last words. You told me, she said, tell Jack I love him. But the recording in your storage unit cuts off before she says anything like that. You lied. Diana shrugged. I thought it would hurt you more, knowing she died thinking of you. Was I right? Jack's finger tightened on the trigger. You killed my wife because she was going to expose you. You killed Thomas because he wouldn't let you steal from him. You tried to kill Catherine because she was getting too close. How many people have to die for your revenge? As many as it takes. Diana moved slowly toward the bed where a phone sat on the nightstand. Thomas destroyed my family. My mother never recovered from the divorce. She died alone and bitter because the man she loved chose his secretary over her. I was 12 years old, Jack. 12. And he just left us like we didn't matter. So you spent 30 years planning to destroy him. I spent 30 years becoming successful enough that he'd want me in his life again. Becoming the daughter he could be proud of. And then, when he finally trusted me, when he finally thought we'd rebuilt our relationship, I took everything from him the way he took everything from me. You took his life. I took his peace. Diana's smile was cruel. Thomas died knowing someone he trusted had betrayed him. Died knowing he'd failed to protect Catherine. That pain was worse than the poison. Jack stepped closer. Where's the rest of the money? The FBI found your accounts, but you're too smart to keep everything in one place. Frozen assets don't matter when you have cash. I moved 20 million in cryptocurrency yesterday. Untraceable, unreachable. Diana laughed. Even if you arrest me, even if you put me in prison, I win. I destroyed Thomas's legacy. I corrupted Victor. I killed people who thought they were safe. I proved that being good, being honorable, being honest doesn't protect you from people like me. You're wrong. Jack lowered his weapon slightly. Thomas built a company that employs 5,000 people. Catherine's running it better than he ever did. Victor's going to prison. And you're going to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, knowing that one day someone's going to find you. Someone who's not bound by FBI rules or extradition laws. Someone who's going to make you pay for every life you destroyed. Diana's smile faded. You can't kill me, Jack. You're not a murderer. You're a good man, a father, someone who follows rules. That's your weakness. You're right. I won't kill you. Jack holstered his weapon. But I don't have to. Canadian police are outside. Agent Reyes is with them. I told her where you were 3 hours ago. She's been coordinating with Toronto PD while I kept you talking. Diana grabbed for the phone on the nightstand. Jack was faster. He caught her wrist twisted hard. The phone fell. Outside doors crashed open downstairs. Voices shouting, "Police!" Diana's face went white with rage. You used yourself as bait. You stupid, reckless. I learned from watching you. Jack pushed her toward the door as police thundered up the stairs. You wanted me to find you. You couldn't resist having the last word. That's your weakness, Diana. You think you're smarter than everyone. But you're just another criminal who got caught. Toronto police took Diana into custody. Agent Reyes had the extradition paperwork ready. Within 6 hours, Diana was on a plane back to New York, shackled and silent. Jack called Emma from the airport. I'm coming home, sweetheart. Did you get the bad person? We got her. It's really over this time. Emma was quiet for a moment. Did she hurt Mom? Jack had promised not to lie. Yes, she did. Good. I'm glad she got caught. Emma's voice was fierce. I'm glad you made her pay. When Jack got back to New York, Catherine was waiting at his apartment with Emma. They'd been baking cookies. The kitchen smelled like sugar and vanilla. Normal things. Safe things. Agent Reyes called, Catherine said. Diana's being charged with 3 counts of murder, conspiracy, embezzlement. The DA says it's the strongest case they've built in years. She's looking at life without parole. What about Victor? He took a plea deal, 20 years. He'll die in prison. Catherine watched Emma frost cookies at the table. It's over, Jack. Really over. But it wasn't. Not quite. 2 weeks later, Jack stood in a cemetery in Queens, holding Emma's hand. Sarah Morrison's grave was simple, just her name and dates. Jack had visited hundreds of times over 5 years, but today felt different. I know what happened now, he said quietly. I know you were trying to help. That you died being brave. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry it took me so long to find who did this. Emma squeezed his hand. Mom would be proud of you, Dad. You didn't give up. You found the truth. They stood there for a long time, the two of them mourning and healing, and trying to figure out how to move forward. Catherine found Jack at Brennan Industries a few days later. He'd officially taken over as director of security, was rebuilding protocols, hiring new people, making sure what happened to Thomas could never happen again. The board met this morning, Catherine said. They want to establish a foundation in Thomas's name, supporting victims of corporate crime, helping families who've lost people to violence. I'd like you to help run it, if you're interested. Catherine, I'm not qualified to run a foundation. You're qualified to understand what those families are going through. That's more valuable than any MBA. She sat down across from him. Thomas hired you because he trusted you, because he knew you'd protect me when he couldn't. And you did. You saved my life, Jack. Twice. Let me honor that by doing something good with the mess Diana and Victor left behind. Jack thought about Sarah, about Thomas, about all the people Diana had hurt in her quest for revenge. Okay, but I want Emma involved. She should see what justice looks like when it works right. Deal. 3 months later, the Thomas Brennan Foundation opened its doors. Emma cut the ribbon looking proud and grown up in a dress Catherine had bought her. The press took photos. Donors wrote checks. People who'd been hurt by corporate crime lined up to tell their stories. Jack stood in the back watching Catherine work the room the way she had at the gala that started everything. But this time no one was trying to poison her. This time she was surrounded by people who respected what she'd built, who honored what Thomas had tried to create. Diana Chen went to trial in September. Jack attended every day of the proceedings, sitting in the gallery with Catherine and Agent Reyes. Diana never looked at them, never showed emotion. She sat perfectly still, listening to witness after witness describe her crimes. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 3 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Diana stood to hear the verdict, and for just a moment her mask cracked. She looked at Jack, and he saw something that might have been fear or regret, or just the realization that she'd destroyed her own life as thoroughly as she'd destroyed others. "Your daughter," Diana said, as the guards led her away. "Keep her safe, Jack Morrison, because if I'd had a father like you, none of this would have happened." It wasn't an apology. It was barely even an acknowledgement. But it was the closest thing to humanity Jack had seen from her. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Catherine gave a brief statement about justice being served, about moving forward, about honoring Thomas's memory. Jack stayed back, kept Emma close. "Is it really over now?" Emma asked. Jack thought about Diana in prison. Victor in prison, the money recovered and returned. He thought about the foundation helping families, about Catherine rebuilding the company stronger than before. He thought about Sarah's grave and the flowers he left there every Sunday. "Yeah, kiddo, it's really over." But that night alone in his apartment after Emma fell asleep, Jack's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you won, but Diana was just one player. The game's bigger than you know. Watch your back, Morrison." Jack stared at the message. He should forward it to Agent Reyes, should report it, should let the FBI handle it. Instead, he deleted it and went to bed. Because whoever sent that message was right. The game was bigger. It always was. There were always more people like Diana, more corporations hiding crimes, more victims who needed someone to fight for them. And Jack Morrison had just figured out that fighting was what he did best. The foundation would help people heal. Catherine would run the company with integrity. Emma would grow up knowing her mother had been a hero. But Jack would keep watching, keep investigating, keep being ready for when the darkness came back, because it always came back, and he'd always be there to stop it. Jack didn't tell anyone about the text message, not Agent Reyes, not Catherine, not even Marcus. Instead, he spent the next 2 weeks watching shadows, checking for tails, analyzing everyone who came too close to Emma or the foundation offices. The message had been clear. Diana wasn't working alone. Someone else was still out there, someone who knew enough to be dangerous. On a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after Diana's sentencing, Catherine called him into her office. She looked troubled, a financial report open on her desk. "We have a problem. The audit team found another irregularity. Not from Victor's embezzlement, something new. Something that started after his arrest." Jack moved closer. "Show me." Catherine turned her monitor. 3 transfers each for $200,000 made in the last month, all going to the same offshore account in the Bahamas. The accounts registered to a company called Meridian Holdings. Who authorized the transfers? That's the problem. They have my digital signature, my approval codes, but I never authorized them. Catherine's hands were shaking slightly. "Someone has access to my accounts, Jack. They're using my credentials to steal from the company." Jack pulled out his phone, texted Marcus to sweep Catherine's office for bugs. "When did the transfer start?" First one was 5 days after Diana's arrest, like someone was waiting to see if we'd catch it. When we didn't, they got bolder. Marcus arrived with his detection equipment, spent 20 minutes checking every corner of the office. He found nothing. But when he checked Catherine's computer, his expression darkened. You've got spyware. Sophisticated stuff. It's been logging your keystrokes, copying your passwords, tracking everything you do on this machine. Marcus showed them the code. This was installed remotely about 6 weeks ago, right around the time you started the audit that exposed Victor. So someone's been watching me the whole time, Catherine said. They knew about the audit, knew about the investigation, probably knew we were closing in on Diana. Jack's mind was racing. The person who texted me. They said Diana was just one player. What if she was telling the truth about having partners? Not just Victor, but someone else. Someone who's still embedded in the company. Catherine stood abruptly. We need to find out who owns Meridian Holdings. Trace the money figure out where it's going. I'll contact Agent Reyes, Jack said. But his phone was already ringing. Reyes's name on the screen. He answered. I was just about to call you. Jack, we have a situation. Diana Chen was attacked in prison this morning. Someone stabbed her in the recreation yard. She's in critical condition. Jack's blood went cold. Is she going to make it? Doctors don't know. But she managed to say something before she lost consciousness. She said to tell you, the architect is still building. Does that mean anything to you? The architect. Someone above Diana. Someone who'd designed the whole operation. Diana hadn't been the mastermind. She'd been a tool, just like Victor. It means we're looking at this wrong, Jack said. Diana and Victor weren't partners running their own scheme. They were working for someone else. Someone who's cleaning up loose ends now that Diana's in custody. Catherine had gone pale. If they're willing to kill Diana in prison, they'll come after anyone who knows too much. That includes us. And Sarah Park, Jack said. Where is she? Witness protection. FBI safe house in New Jersey. Reyes sounded worried. But if someone has access to law enforcement databases, nowhere is really safe. Jack made a decision. Pull Sarah out. Bring her here to the Foundation offices. I can protect her better than some safe house with agents who don't know what they're up against. Jack, that's not protocol. Protocol didn't stop Diana from getting stabbed in a maximum security prison. Whoever we're dealing with has resources and reach. Sarah's the only witness who can identify the architect. We need her alive. Reyes was quiet for a moment. I'll make it happen. But Morrison, if anything happens to her, it's on you. Understood. Sarah Park arrived 3 hours later, flanked by 2 FBI agents. She looked exhausted, thinner than Jack remembered. Witness protection had been hard on her. Thank you for bringing me here, Sarah said when the agents left. That safe house felt like a prison. At least here I can help. Catherine offered her coffee. Sarah, we need you to think back to your meetings with Thomas. Did he ever mention someone above Victor? Someone pulling strings? Sarah sat down, wrapped her hands around the coffee mug. Not explicitly. But there was one conversation, maybe 2 weeks before he died. Thomas said he'd discovered the embezzlement went deeper than he thought. That Victor was just the visible face, but the real architect was someone Thomas had trusted even more. Someone who'd been with the company from the beginning. Who's been here from the beginning? Jack asked Catherine. Me, Victor Thomas. Our first VP of Operations, Margaret Chen. Catherine stopped. Wait. Chen. Diana's mother was Margaret Chen. I never made the connection. Sarah nodded. Thomas said Margaret had left the company under mysterious circumstances right before his divorce. He'd always assumed she quit because she couldn't work with him after the affair with Catherine became public. But what if she was forced out? What if she knew about the embezzlement, even back then? Jack pulled out his phone, searched for Margaret Chen. Died 2015, obituary listed her as a retired business consultant. But her LinkedIn profile showed she'd worked for consulting firms right up until her death. Firms that specialized in offshore finance and corporate restructuring. Margaret taught Diana everything, Catherine said slowly. Diana studied chemistry and finance at MIT, but her mother had 30 years of experience in corporate accounting. If Margaret was embezzling before the divorce, she could have taught Diana how to do it better, how to hide it deeper. And Diana would have seen it as justice, Jack said. Not just revenge for the divorce, but reclaiming money her mother stole that Thomas never knew about. Money Diana believed was rightfully theirs. Sarah leaned forward. But if Margaret died in 2015, she couldn't be the architect now, unless she had a partner, someone who survived her. Catherine was already pulling up employee records. Margaret worked closely with one person her entire tenure. Our general counsel, Robert Chen, her brother, Diana's uncle. The name hit like a hammer. Robert Chen had been Brennan Industries' chief lawyer for 35 years. He'd handled Thomas's will, Catherine's inheritance, every major legal decision the company made. He was 70 years old, respected, trusted absolutely, and he was Diana's uncle. "Where is Robert now?" Jack asked. Catherine checked. "He retired 6 months ago, right after I took over as CEO, said he wanted to spend time with his grandchildren, enjoy his golden years. We threw him a party. Everyone in the company came." "He retired because Diana was about to make her move," Jack said. "He knew the embezzlement would be exposed eventually, so he got out while he could. Let Victor and Diana take the fall while he disappeared with whatever money he'd stolen." Marcus knocked on the door looking urgent. "Catherine, building security just flagged something. Robert Chen used his old access card to enter the building 10 minutes ago. He's on the executive floor right now." Jack was on his feet immediately. "Sarah, stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marcus." He looked at Catherine. "You're coming with me. If Robert's here, we're going to end this now." They took the stairs up to the executive floor, Jack in front, weapon drawn. Catherine stayed close behind him. The hallway was empty, but light spilled from Catherine's office at the end of the corridor. Jack approached, carefully checked the angles. Robert Chen stood behind Catherine's desk, downloading files onto a USB drive. He was dressed in an expensive suit, looking calm and professional. When he saw them, he smiled. "Catherine, Jack, I was hoping you'd figure it out eventually. I'm actually impressed it only took you 3 months. Step away from the computer, Robert," Jack said. Robert unplugged the USB drive, slipped it into his pocket. "I don't think so. These files contain evidence of every crime Diana and Victor committed. Every transfer, every account, every murder. With these, I can disappear completely. Without them, you have nothing that connects me to any of it." "We have Sarah Park's testimony," Catherine said. "We have Thomas's notes. We have the spyware on my computer. Sarah Park is a frightened woman in witness protection whose testimony is entirely circumstantial. Thomas's notes mention my sister Margaret, not me, and the spyware was installed by Diana. Everything points to her, not to me." Robert smiled. "I'm just a retired lawyer cleaning out my old files. Nothing illegal about that." Jack took a step closer. "You orchestrated everything. You taught Margaret how to embezzle, then taught Diana. You used Victor as your fall guy and Diana as your weapon, and when Thomas got too close, you had him killed." "Thomas was my friend," Robert said, "but he was also naive. He thought loyalty mattered more than survival. When he discovered Margaret had been moving money offshore in the 80s, I convinced him to let her retire quietly rather than prosecute. I told him it would destroy Diana to see her mother in prison. Thomas agreed because he felt guilty about the divorce. He never knew I was the one who'd set up the offshore accounts in the first place." "So you've been stealing from this company for 40 years, Catherine said. "I've been ensuring my family's financial security for 40 years. Margaret and I grew up poor, Catherine. We built this company as much as Thomas did. But when he divorced my sister for you, he cut her out of everything, left her with barely enough to survive. So yes, I took what she deserved, and I taught Diana to do the same." "You used your own niece," Jack said. "Let her take the fall for murders you ordered." "Diana knew what she was getting into. She wanted revenge as much as she wanted money. I simply provided the means." Robert moved toward the door. "Now I'm leaving. You can't stop me without proof, and the only proof is on this drive. By tomorrow, I'll be in a country with no extradition treaty, living on the $200 million I've moved over 4 decades. Diana and Victor will spend their lives in prison, and you'll never be able to touch me." Jack raised his weapon. I can't let you walk out of here. You won't shoot me, Jack. You're a good man. You follow rules. That's why people like me always win. Robert walked past him toward the hallway. Jack didn't shoot. Instead, he stepped aside and let Robert walk past. Catherine looked at him in shock. Jack, what are you doing? Trusting the system. Jack pulled out his phone, played a recording. Robert's voice filled the hallway, confessing to 40 years of embezzlement, to orchestrating murders, to using Diana as his weapon. Robert's face went white. You were recording from the moment we walked in, and it's already uploaded to the FBI's secure server. Agent Reyes has been listening to everything. Jack smiled. You taught Diana to document everything. She learned that lesson well. So did I. Agent Reyes stepped out of the stairwell with 4 armed agents. Robert Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, money laundering, and about 50 other charges I'm going to enjoy reading to you. Robert didn't resist as they cuffed him. He just looked at Jack with something like respect. You played me. I learned from watching you. You assumed I'd be predictable. That was your mistake. As they led Robert away, Catherine leaned against the wall, shaking. It's really over now. All of them are in custody. Diana, Victor, Robert. Everyone who hurt Thomas. Everyone who hurt a lot of people, Jack corrected. He put his weapon away. Sarah can come out of witness protection. The money can be recovered. The foundation can help the victims. And you... what do you do now? Jack thought about Emma, about the life he'd built, about Sarah's grave, and the promise he'd made to find her killers. I do what I've been doing. I protect people. I find the truth. I make sure good people don't die for being good. Catherine smiled. The foundation needs a director of investigations, someone who knows how to dig deep, who won't stop until they find answers. Interested? That depends. Does it come with a raise? Substantial, and your own office, and a team of investigators you can train. Catherine held out her hand. Help me make sure what happened to Thomas never happens to anyone else. Help me turn this tragedy into something that protects people. Jack shook her hand. Deal. But I need to go home first. Emma's soccer game is in an hour. I promised I'd be there. Go. We'll talk tomorrow about building your team. Jack drove to Emma's school, arriving just as the game started. He stood on the sidelines with the other parents, watching his daughter play defense with fierce concentration. She saw him, waved, smiled bright enough to light the whole field. This was what mattered. Not the criminals in prison, or the money recovered, or the cases solved. This. Emma safe and happy, and growing up in a world where her father fought to make things right. After the game, Emma ran over, still in her cleats and grass-stained uniform. Did you see my goal? I totally beat the other team's striker. I saw it. You were amazing. Jack hugged her tight. I'm proud of you, kiddo. Are you done with the bad guys now? Really done. Jack thought about Robert in custody, Diana recovering in a prison hospital, Victor serving his sentence. He thought about the text message warning him the game was bigger than he knew. He thought about all the corporations hiding crimes, all the families grieving victims, all the people who needed someone to fight for them. Yes, sweetheart, this case is done. The people who hurt Mom are going to prison. Justice was served. Emma studied his face. But there'll be other bad guys, other cases. You're not going back to being a janitor, are you? No, I'm going to run investigations for Mrs. Brennan's foundation. Help families like ours find answers when people they love are hurt by corporate crimes. Is that okay with you? Emma thought about it seriously. Will it be dangerous? Sometimes, but I'll be careful, and I'll always come home to you. Okay, but Dad, next time you have to kiss someone to save their life, maybe give me a heads up first. The kids at school still tease me about that video. Jack laughed. Deal. No more surprise kissing. They drove home talking about the game and Emma's upcoming science project and what they should have for dinner. Normal life, simple things. The kind of life Sarah had wanted for them, the kind Thomas had tried to build for Catherine. That night, after Emma went to bed, Jack sat at his kitchen table with a beer and his phone. He opened his messages, looked at the threatening text from weeks ago. Then, he typed a response. "You're right. The game's bigger than I knew. But I'm not backing down. Come at me if you want. I'll be ready." He hit send, then deleted the thread. Because whoever sent that message, whoever was still out there in the shadows, they needed to know that Jack Morrison wasn't afraid. He'd found the people who killed his wife. He'd protected Catherine from assassins. He'd taken down criminals who'd operated for 40 years without getting caught. Let them come. He'd be waiting. 2 months later, the Thomas Brennan Foundation held its first annual gala. 500 guests, major donors' families helped by the foundation's work. Catherine gave a speech about turning tragedy into purpose, about honoring those who'd been lost by protecting those who remained. Jack stood in the back watching Emma help serve champagne to guests. Not poisoned this time, just champagne. She was dressed up looking older than 12, talking confidently to billionaires and politicians like she'd been doing it her whole life. Catherine found him. "She's a natural. You should be proud." "I am, every day." "Robert's trial starts next week. The DA says it's open and shut. He'll get life without parole." Catherine sipped her champagne. "Diana's still in the hospital. The stabbing damaged her spine. Even if she recovers, she'll never walk again." "Poetic justice," Jack said. "She tried to destroy everyone around her and ended up destroying herself. Victor died yesterday. Heart attack in his cell. He was only 62. Jack felt nothing about Victor's death. The man had murdered his friend, had tried to kill Catherine, had caused pain to too many people. "How are you doing with all of it? Really?" Catherine was quiet for a moment. "I miss Thomas. Every day. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not scared. I'm just focused on making sure his legacy is protecting people, not the company he built. The foundation does more good in a week than Brennan Industries did in a year. Thomas would be proud." "I hope so." Catherine looked at him. "Jack, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. That night at the gala when you kissed me to save my life, I was so angry, humiliated. I thought you'd lost your mind. You had every right to be angry. But you didn't hesitate. You saw danger, and you acted even though it meant drinking poison, even though it meant public embarrassment, even though you barely knew me. You sacrificed yourself for someone else without thinking twice. That's who you are, Jack Morrison. And I'm grateful every day that Thomas found you, that you were there when I needed you." Jack didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded, and they stood together watching Emma charm a senator into doubling his foundation donation. The gala ended at midnight. Jack drove Emma home, listened to her chatter about the people she'd met, the conversations she'd had. She was so much like Sarah, curious and kind, and unafraid of the world. "Dad, I've been thinking," Emma said as they pulled up to their apartment. "When I grow up, I want to work for the foundation, help families like you do, find justice for people who can't find it themselves." Jack's throat tightened. "That's a good goal, kiddo. But you've got time. Focus on being 12 for now. Let me handle the justice finding. Promise you'll teach me, though, when I'm older. Promise you'll show me how to fight for people who need help." "I promise." Inside their apartment, Jack checked the locks twice, old habits he couldn't break. He looked in on Emma after she fell asleep, watched her breathe, reminded himself that she was safe, that the people who'd threatened her were in prison or dead. His phone buzzed. Text from Catherine. "Thank you for tonight, for everything. You gave me my life back, Jack. I won't forget that." He typed back, "You gave me purpose. We're even." But they weren't even, not really. Catherine had given him more than purpose. She'd given him a reason to be who Sarah had always believed he could be. A protector, a fighter, someone who made the world safer just by existing in it. Jack looked at the photo of Sarah on his mantle. His wife smiled back at him, forever, young, forever brave. He'd found her killers. He'd made them pay. He'd honored her sacrifice by making sure Emma grew up safe and loved. "I did it," he whispered to the photo. "I found them all. I made sure they'd never hurt anyone else. You can rest now." And for the first time in 5 years, Jack felt like he could rest too. Not forever, because evil never slept, and there would always be more fights ahead. But for tonight, in this moment, with Emma safe in her room and justice served, and the foundation helping people who needed it, tonight Jack Morrison could close his eyes and sleep without nightmares. Tomorrow, he'd wake up and fight again. Because that's what protectors did. They fought until there was nothing left to fight for. And Jack Morrison had everything worth fighting for sleeping down the hall. 6 months later, Emma's 13th birthday, Jack got another text from an unknown number. "You stopped one architect, but buildings have many builders. Watch your daughter Morrison. We're not done with you." Jack read the message twice, then forwarded it to Agent Reyes with a note. "Here we go again." Because he'd learned something important from this whole experience. Evil was patient. It evolved. It came back stronger every time you thought you'd beaten it. But so did good. So did justice. So did fathers who'd do anything to protect their daughters. Let them come. Jack Morrison would be ready. He'd kissed a CEO to save her life, and ended up uncovering a conspiracy that spanned 40 years. He'd lost his wife, but found his purpose. He'd raised a daughter who wanted to fight for justice just like him. Whatever came next, whoever threatened his family or the people he protected, Jack would face it the same way he'd faced everything else. Head on. Without hesitation. Without fear. Because that's what heroes did. And Jack Morrison, former Marine, former janitor, current director of investigations, was finally ready to admit that maybe, just maybe, he'd been a hero all along. He just needed someone to believe in him first, someone to trust him enough to let him save their life. Catherine Brennan had given him that chance, and he'd never stop being grateful. The story could have ended there, neat and tidy and resolved. But life wasn't neat. It wasn't tidy. It was messy and complicated, and full of new threats waiting around every corner. So Jack Morrison kept fighting, kept investigating, kept protecting people who needed protection. And every night he came home to Emma and made her favorite dinner and listened to her talk about her day. Because that was the real victory. Not catching criminals or recovering stolen money or putting bad people in prison. The real victory was coming home. Every single night. No matter what. That's what Sarah would have wanted. That's what Thomas had died trying to achieve. That's what Catherine had built the foundation to honor. And that's what Jack Morrison would keep doing until the day he couldn't anymore. One kiss to save a life. One decision that changed everything. Best decision he'd ever made.